Good evening. Cool. So we thought we'd mix things up tonight because this is our probably last ever team night in this format. Because next year we'll be doing lift groups. I was like, what's it called again? And we thought December is going to become a bit crazy for everyone, and we just wanted to just finish off. So what we're going to do tonight is that I'm going to start off and take about 20 minutes, just run through probably the final teaching in our series. Not that we planned it from day dot, but it's good fun. And then Beck's going to give an update on how we're going with our crew goals. Sorry, all the words are getting mixed up in my head. And then from there we're going to head into a time of prayer, and there'll be lots and lots of fun. We thought ending on prayer is a lot better, focusing on God rather than we end our team nights focusing on Nate. So we thought that we would do it that way. But I hope that you still give me your attention for the first 20 minutes, which should be nice. By the way, that is Beck.
No, go away.
Beck the squirrel. It's alright. Won't be more distracting than the squirrel. Alright, cool. So I thought that tonight we should talk about something that I think is going to be so important in building teams, which is what we are going to be doing for the rest of our lives. And as we go from this point on, I think we already have started really putting a focus on team leadership rather than everything focused on Beck and myself. So we started off Lift with us being involved in every aspect of the church life, and that was just so that we can make sure that it's heading in the direction that we see Lift heading into. And now that we've actually got the ball rolling, there's a little bit of momentum now. We're starting to appoint leaders, and all of you guys in this room, plus those listening to this, chances are at some point you'll be taking some kind of team on. And one of the really key aspects of team leadership is the ability to take and give feedback. I say feedback in a very general sense. It doesn't mean feedback means someone has done something completely wrong and then you talk to them, but feedback is actually whenever you just talk to the person about how things are going. So first I wanted to just run through the importance of feedback. I understand that most of you have been involved in teams and you've seen things happen, but I think this is a really underrated skill, and it's something that when I really stepped into leadership, it was something that I really had to work on, and it's still something that I am working on today. And I think it's one of those things that if you do this well, most of the aspects of your leadership will probably just come into place, because I think this is one of those things where if you learn how to interact with people in a way that constantly pushes them forward without them feeling like you're thinking that they are a failure, which is what bad feedback can be like when you're constantly putting down the person, then you're going to have an amazing team. You're going to have people around you that are actually going to thrive if they know what you want them to be working on. At the same time, they know that they're valued, they know their strengths, they know how to operate in the team setting, and that all comes back to feedback. It's something that is quite small, but is at the same time is probably the key element of leadership. Does that make sense? So the importance of feedback, I just got a few thoughts around this so that you can kind of see where we're coming from, but feedback puts significance into the task that's being done. Because even the little things, when you're giving feedback to a person, hey, when you did that thing, you're actually saying that was significant enough for me to notice what was going on. Does that make sense? I think a lot of times what we do as leaders is that if something's not broke, I'm not going to touch it. And so quite often a lot of things that are done in a church setting goes completely unsaid and unaffirmed because it is working fine. You know, how many times do we actually affirm the sound guys and the multimedia people when they do a good job? Very little. Why? Because it's working well, and so that's good enough. You know, with the host teams as well. You know, how often do we actually say, when you did that, and actually be specific about what that is? And I'm not saying be cheesy and corny about it. I'm not saying that time when you handed me that offering bucket, it was like God reached out and touched. I'm not saying anything weird like that, but I'm saying that when you notice, hey, when you were smiling at those new people, man, just that feedback places significance on what can be sometimes really mundane things and what people might think are really small. So that's one of the power of feedback. But if you do it well, it also puts significance into the person because they know that you are noticing what they are doing. They are noticing that you have been watching, not in a weird way where it's like, I'm watching you, but in a way that's like, hey, this person actually notices me, values me. And I think that's also really, really important. So feedback puts significance into the task that's being done, and it puts significance into the person that you are giving feedback to. Third thing is that feedback creates an open culture, and that is something that at Lift we really desperately want to create. We don't want there to be a sense where leaders are standing on pedestals and are unreachable. We want leadership to be accessible to all, and we actually want to create a culture where leadership is serving other people. That's what leadership really should be. And if that's the case, we need an open culture. We can't have you're a leader, you're a pleb, you're a dog's body, you're just no one. We don't want that. And feedback helps, if it's done in the right way, to close the gap. And if you can make it a two-way feedback system, then all the better. It just creates that level playing field for everyone. Make sense so far? The fourth thing is that feedback actually cultivates a growth mindset. And this is something that is extremely, extremely important. It's something that I was researching a little while ago, and this is actually really interesting. Mindset is the key determinant of whether things grow or whether things stagnate and eventually die. It's all down to your mindset. And the key thing about it is that if you have a growth mindset, then you are in a position where you're always thinking about growing. Unfortunately, feedback's often taken really badly, and so the growth mindset gets shut down. Does that make sense? Because we don't want someone to be showing me where I truly am at, and so you don't grow. And so having good feedback systems in place ensures that you're cultivating a growth mindset. And it's always easier to implement a mindset right from the start rather than halfway through when things have already been established, and then you say, okay, now we're going to try to do this. Then it's like correcting a ship, and it's been heading in this direction for a long time and you've been wanting to go there. At the start is a minor correction, but when you've been gone for a little while is a major correction. And so we want to cultivate a growth mindset right from now, and therefore feedback is highly, highly important in that regard. And so with that, if you have a growth mindset, it keeps people moving forward. It doesn't allow things to settle and to decay. The next thing is that feedback creates a culture of engagement. One of the key words that we hear about a lot in leadership is the whole idea of engagement. Are people owning it? It's like, oh, that person just doesn't own it. You know why that person doesn't own it? Because they're not given a voice, because they're not noticed, because what they do doesn't seem to be significant. That is all corrected by a simple thing called feedback. And I say simple because it sounds simple, but I know the practice of it is it's different, and I'm going to talk about it in a little while. But the final thing that feedback does is that it keeps the vision at the forefront of people's minds. That's why I chose to talk about this tonight, because from this point on, the amount of times that we gather together as a team is going to be radically lowered compared to what we've been doing. And we thought it's really important the first season for us to have all of this contact, but we also realized that church life is going to only get busier from here. We're going to launch small groups. We are going to be branching off in new initiatives, and to have the luxury of meeting up every single week in a format like that is going to become more difficult. And we want you to know that we value your personal life, your life in your ministries that exist outside of the church, and we want to do all of that. And so we need every person here to be constantly refreshing the vision in every other person that is coming alongside, because vision leaks. That's a standard thing. It happens all the time. If you're not mentioning the vision enough, people are going to lose sight of what's happening. And so if you want to be a leader at Lift, you need to be carrying the vision. And a good way of carrying the vision is not actually reciting a vision statement, which we do not have at this point, to the person say, all right, now repeat after me. The church in my heart is... No. That's not how the vision continues to get refreshed in people's mind. It is through the things that we are doing. You know, when you welcome that new person, you get that feedback to the host team. That is actually showing the heart of Lift Church, that we want to accept all people. We want to create a sense of family. That feedback refreshes the vision, refreshes the mission of the church. And that's why it's also so important that we are latching onto the things that are starting to slide in terms of the vision, in terms of the culture, in terms of the value of the church. And that happens best through different leaders, not just through Beck and myself. Make sense? So I hope I've established really quickly what is the importance of feedback, and now I want to talk about how to give feedback. And I know last week we had a great conversation about confrontation, and I see feedback and confrontation probably in a similar type of a playing field, but I want to change it around in that feedback needs to be a lifestyle. Feedback is not only something that you do when something is going wrong. Does that make sense? Feedback is also when something is going right. Probably one of the biggest things that I've learned in my leadership journey is that people forget or don't know or are scared of not hitting the mark. They don't know what the mark is. And so if you're silent about that mark, if you're silent when the person's actually hitting that mark, the person's like, I don't know if I'm getting it. I don't know if that's right. And if that's the case, they are going to be trialing out different things because they think that they've not hit the mark. Does that make sense? So feedback is one of those things. It is encouragement, it is affirmation, but it's also helping people know the mark that's being hit. That's so important for us as a church, that we are hitting those targets and we're going, yes, we are actually doing it. Does that make sense? In a church setting, is a lot more informal, and we're not going to have, I guess, KPIs that we're going to sit down with you and it's like, where's your personal walk with God? How's your leadership going? It's not going to be as formal as that. And so it's really important that we make feedback a lifestyle. Both are things that are absolutely working and are things that are not working so well. And so we want to actually create processes and systems to help us give feedback. And that's something that in teams we're going to discuss, and we're going to over time put them in place, and we're going to learn how we're going with that. So that's the first thing we need to understand. We want to make feedback a lifestyle in the life of Lift. So a big part of that is that we need to model it as leaders. We all need to be willing to receive and ask for feedback, and also give feedback in a good way. And two things that we need to learn, that we need to understand about how our brain works when it comes to criticism in particular, which I thought was really interesting. And I want to hear this so that you actually understand what you're dealing with when you're giving feedback. Criticism, when it comes to us, our brain naturally perceives it as a threat to our personhood. Any criticism is actually taken as a threat to our personhood. Psychologist Daniel Goleman says, threats to our standing in the eyes of others are remarkably potent biologically, almost as those to our very survival. That means that when you receive criticism, your brain can, I'm not saying will, but can interpret it as a threat to your survival. Your survival instincts can kick up. That's why most people, when they receive any kind of criticism, no matter how small, will arc up in a very defensive manner. Because for them it is a fight for survival. It has become a fight for survival. To create a lifestyle and a culture of feedback, us as leaders, we first need to understand whether we are reacting in that kind of a way. When you are receiving any kind of tiny little criticism about whatever's going on, are you going, oh, how dare you? You know, it's like, you didn't appreciate me enough and you dare to talk to me about that. You didn't notice all the things that, all those excuses that we could have for why we shouldn't receive that criticism is actually an internal wiring that we're thinking is a threat to who we are as people. But if we can actually learn as leaders to turn it around and take it as not, this is not a threat, but this is actually a step forward for me. This helps me to find my blind spots. This helps me to see what I need to improve in. Even in the toughest of situations, when the person giving me feedback is someone that I don't trust, don't like, maybe even hate, there's actually a kernel of truth that I can take away from that and make myself better. But it is a position that you have to take as a leader, and it's a position that you have to model to other people. So that's the first thing to realize, that you actually perceive criticism as a threat to your personhood. That's our natural wiring. It doesn't always have to be that way. I know people that have worked past that, and some people just naturally are are really good, are really teachable. That's fantastic. But I think most of us in this room, myself included, actually have to work on receiving feedback. The second thing to note is that we remember criticism strongly but inaccurately. Have you ever gone through a situation where this person said, "But you told me that I am X, Y, Z," and you're like, "I never said anything like that." And that person is absolutely adamant in their mind that they remember you saying that. Have you ever been in that situation? I've been there. It's like, oh my gosh. Have I just got a memory blank on what I said? Or what is going on? The thing that is possibly going on is that this person remembers receiving criticism, but because there is so much emotion attached to it, they actually attach the meaning that they gave to your criticism and put it into your mouth. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what we need to realize as leaders is that if you are giving a negative piece of criticism, you need to work on this, the person very likely is not going to take it well. Number one, because it's a threat, and number two, they're going to personalize it and but they'll twist it in a way that is not accurate to what you said. That's probably what happens to a lot of people. I'm mentioning these to you guys tonight because we all need to realize that we all do these things. And if we learn how to counter that as much as we can, then we get to model a healthy feedback culture. And so this is really important. So, knowing that these two things happen, these are some tips, and these are literally tips. They're not do this now, although I would probably say, this is researched, these are good stuff, try to put it in place. But the first thing is to give constant encouragement. Constant. You don't give encouragement only when you have to couple it with criticism. Okay? And that's something that I always need to work on, because every piece, I'm seeing so much. That's just the way I'm wired. I see all these details, and there's always good and bad. And I have to learn that sometimes the bad isn't that bad. It could have been just a fluke of what happened today. And that doesn't mean that I don't have to say the good. What researchers have shown are high-performance teams, normally what happens is that in that kind of environment, there is 5.6 encouragements to every one criticism. That doesn't mean that when you have something to say, a detail to give, you give 5 encouragements first. It's like, okay, you are pretty, you have big eyes, you have nice hair, and you look really fit. I don't know why it's all physical stuff, but I can't think of it. And you're really nice, but this is something you have to work on. If you do that, you're just being an idiot, alright? But if you give constant, natural encouragement all the time, you're actually feeding into the moment where you need to address an issue that's coming up. Does that make sense? So give constant encouragement. Let them know that you care for them as a person, and you're not just there to get something out of them. And encouragement does that. Number 2 is to give it in a timely manner. You give feedback in a timely manner. Most of us would prefer to go away for a little bit, process it through a little bit, take the emotion out of the situation before giving feedback. And understandably so, and sometimes that is necessary, but most times that's actually working against feedback. Why? Because the person has forgotten about it, number 1. But number 2, we tend to accumulate feedback. And when we accumulate feedback and we have to talk to the person and we are saying to this person, just imagine this scenario. Oh, I haven't spoken to Beck about that thing and I noticed her doing it on that time and that time and that time. Okay, so I've got those 4 scenarios and I can show her that, hey, this is actually something that she needs to work on. And then I sit down with her and I say, hey, you did this and you did it on this occasion, this occasion, this occasion, this occasion. How does that look like? If that person wasn't defensive at hearing that you already had some kind of feedback on the first time, they now think that you're some kind of weird big brother that is watching out and ensuring that she's making these mistakes so that you can tell her. It's only going to speak into the value and the worth of the person. But the first time that she does it, and I have created a culture of encouragement already, and in a timely manner, that means that maybe on a Sunday Arvo, maybe Sunday night or Tuesday, I give her a call and I say, hey Beck, there was this one thing I noticed, and I think that if you work on it, it could actually really help you in your leadership. Bam, this is it. Say it clearly, say it concisely, don't beat around the bush, because if you beat around the bush, it gives the person more chance of manipulating what they've heard in their mind, and it's completely unconscious, right? This is not something that I'm taking what you're saying and I'm going to attach this. No. It's just in their mind. It just happens. If you give all this fluff for them to attach meaning to, you don't know what you're saying. I've been there when I'm trying to give feedback that's awkward, and I'm trying to tone it down, and I'm saying it, and as the words come out of my mouth, I'm like, oh my gosh. No, that's not what I mean. No, that's not what I mean. No, that's not what I mean. And the person is like, and you walk away and nothing's happened. You know what I mean? We had the worst feedback session ever. Why? Because you were beating around a bush and there was all sorts of meanings being attached to all sorts of stuff and you were not prepared. When you're prepared with your feedback, it's going to be clear and it's going to be concise. And that's going to help the person not be able to attach any meaning to it. Now, if this person tends to be insecure and twist the words that you say, another little tool that you can use at the end of the feedback, if it is a criticism, just ask them, hey, so that we know that we're on the same page, can you just let me know what message you have received? What do you think that I said? And if they say it and you're like, oh my gosh, no, you did not get what I said, you're dealing with a potential confrontation that's going to be really awkward right then, because you are ensuring that the person, remember what we do, we attach meaning to things and say, no, I did not say that you are a bad communicator. I did not say that you're a bad kids worker. I did not say that you're a bad host team member. I'm just saying that this is a little thing that I saw that will help you grow. And that's all you're saying. Just be really careful with those that tend to be a little bit more sensitive. Ask them. Find out from them. Sorry, I'm going a little bit over time, but this is, I think, really important. As a team leader, maybe you can find out ways to set up feedback sessions on maybe a weekly basis. Maybe in the kids team you can set up a 5-minute feedback session just before the pack down happens, or maybe right after the pack down happens, just so that you're able to have an open forum where if you're doing it one-on-one, it seems a lot more personal. If you're doing it in a team setting, it might take away that personal bite. Obviously be watchful, the person is still taking it personally, then have a chat with them, but maybe you can set it up so that people know, hey, this is a regular occurrence. Yeah. This is not something that I'm purposely doing because you did really badly. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. I think with the music team back in Centrepoint, we worked out that musos tend to be very soft, very nice people, and the moment you give them any feedback, whether it be about their musicianship or their voice, is the crumbling like a curry puff. They're just like gone. They're something mess, and you're like, oh my gosh.
But we like curry puffs.
We love curry puffs. I love curry puffs. It's probably a really bad analogy, but I just love the whole crumbling like a curry puff. Pavlova. Like pastries. Crumbling like pastries. But if you make it a more formalized thing, it can take away the bite. That's a thought to have. Another thing is that for you personally, understand the purpose behind the feedback you're about to give. And this is because all of us as leaders, we need to be servant leaders. We need to be understanding of us serving people. Are you giving feedback because is there any self-serving intentions behind it. If there is, deal with that first, and then see if that feedback is still as relevant as you think it is. Another thing to note is that when you have criticism to give a person, think about it first. Is this a consistent pattern that you are seeing, or is this an anomaly? Because anomalies doesn't, I know I've said give it in a timely manner, but sometimes as leaders we need to be understanding as well. And one thing that we've learned through youth ministry, kids ministry, is that when a kid acts up when they don't normally act up, it normally means something's going on. And this is a prime opportunity for pastoral care. And as leaders, we need to be building people up. We're not just getting things done. And so if you see that something's amiss and you just want to deal with it straight away, just hold back a moment. Just ask, is this a pattern or is this a anomaly? Anomaly? All right, let's first and foremost ask, hey, just notice that you didn't look completely on your game today. Is something going on? Would you like to talk about it? And at least you're showing that care. That person's like, oh man, I don't know what's going on. I'm just having a terrible day. Then maybe if it's an anomaly as well, it's not something that you need to address. It's like, hey, and that's something that I've learned over the last 3 months at Lift, that there are some things that I'm just like, you know what? We could have done better, but we're also working with humans. And there are things that goes on, and not everyone's comfortable with sharing everything that's going on all the time. I need to give feedback when it's required feedback in that sense, but sometimes it is better to show the person mistakes are okay as well. So I'm not saying give feedback just so that we get rid of all mistakes. Feedback for the purpose of building a person up looks like it's not just about the task. It's about how the person is going as a leader, how the person is going as a Christian, how the person is going as a person. And I think that's really important for us to think like that. So I've taken far too much time. I wanted to ask how people were taking it and get some feedback around this teaching, but we're not going to do that because I have taken up far too much time. But if you want to have a chat about that, if you want to have my notes because I was going far too fast, I can send it through to you. It's all on dot points anyway. But let's do feedback well. Why is there party poppers?
So we are doing feedback now.
No.
We're not doing feedback. Because feedback is bad, right?
All right. So that's the teaching portion of tonight. If you guys got any questions and all of that, we will deal with them after the formal portion of the team night.
Yes.
And now I'm going to hand over to Beck, who's going to give an update on how we're going with our crew goals. And apparently she's got something planned that I've got no idea about.
Yay! Alright, pass these around and take as many as you want. As long as somebody...
I'm sorry, YouTube people. Beck is passing party poppers around.
Yeah.
If you hear loud pops, or if you're scared of loud pops, you might want to turn your volume down soon.
No one's afraid of like the popping sound, are they? No? We're all good? We're all cool? Oh, okay. Sorry.
It might be really loud in the house, Beck.
It's fun.
Oh.
I don't know where to put this. Okay, so we're going to do a quick update on crew goals, how we've been going. Now, we are going to have a time of prayer and a bit of worship afterwards, and some of these are prayer points that we're going to continue to lift up to God. But they're also reason to celebrate, because we're celebrating how we've been going so far, what God's doing in our midst, hence the party poppers, and because I like celebration stuff. Like I've already got a Christmas wallpaper on my phone. That's how much I love this kind of stuff. Hence the party poppers. Cool. For the first one though, okay, so sorry. With the party poppers, you can pop your party popper whenever you want. There you go. I was going to say like...
I slipped.
for the goal in particular that you're really excited about. So it could be about finances that you get excited about. It could be about souls. It could be about attendance. Whatever it is. Nate, you can grab another one if you want.
Oh, I was throwing it here.
Yeah, or you could do that and just go bang or something. The first one is a goal for like an upcoming goal, so we won't party pop on that one. But alright, Christmas on the Green. So we have that coming up, and our goal for that is to see 200 to 300 people Oh, okay. All right, 200 to 300 people attend the event, and we are kind of, I guess, gauging how our community responds to us. Sorry, I thought I heard the thing. So we're gauging how they respond to us, and I think we have communicated before that it takes a certain amount of connections. Somebody is here.
Yes.
Yay!
Hello.
Oh, Joe, you need a party jumper. I do have good hearing. So it does take a certain amount of interactions with, I guess, the group, with any kind of group. But what we would also love to really see is families come who have come for our pop-up carnival. They come again to the Christmas on the Green, and then hopefully we'll see them in church on a Sunday real soon. So so Joe, what we're going to do, because it's our last team that we're celebrating, and we're doing an update of crew goals. So whichever update, whichever goal you get excited about, there's like finances, attendance, all that kind of stuff. You can just pop up. All right, okay, next goal. So I believe, our tithes and offering.
Money!
This is actually a good gauge to see what people get excited about. This is awesome. All right, so our goal for tithes and offering per week. So a couple of weeks ago, Nate talked about what we would need to, I guess, collect up each week to be paying off all the weekly payments and things like that, plus a bit of margin, and so that amount was $2,000. But right now we are sitting on $1,942.50 on average per week for the last 4 weeks. On average since April, and so we hadn't actually started Lift yet, but just the average from then till now. So that's what the board looks at, so we do need to tell you guys. But we're sitting on $1,324. So that's cool, but this is exciting! Yay! Alright, next goal. Okay, Sunday attendance. Yay. Now, we didn't have... We didn't have a specific goal in mind, but just to let you know, I guess our growth, right now we're sitting on 48 and a half people. And a half, it's there you go, here's the half. So that's been our average for attendance over the last 4 weeks. And this Sunday just gone, we actually had our highest attendance for a normal experience, which was 57 people.
So just to let you know, 57, we launched on August the 30th. Before August 30th, we had 38 people in our team, including kids. Yeah. So that represents 50% growth. Yeah. Which is fantastic.
Awesome. Definitely something to thank God for. Alright, next goal. Alright, so this one I'm particularly excited about. Thank you. Yes, Yen has been doing an amazing job. Well done, Yen. We really love what you're doing. So yes, right now we're sitting on the city. So this really does represent our Lift family. Okay. Too late. Oh, okay. We still have salvations coming up, so maybe if you guys have any poppers left. So this represents our family and I guess the growth that we've seen in the actual Lift family. So right now we're sitting on 48 adults and 8 kids. So that's really exciting. And like Nate mentioned, we started off with 38 within the team. So that is, a massive growth so far. So thank God. All right, now the last
Oh, is that the last one?
Yeah, it's the last one. Kids! Very good. Alright, so definitely something to thank God for. We have seen 8 decisions for Christ over the last 13 weeks. So that's absolutely fantastic. This is definitely one of our prayer points. We do want to see this increase, and yeah, we just want to see a lot more people coming to Christ through our experiences and just through our networks as well. So yes, that's definitely something we'll pray into in just a moment. But yeah, we have so many reasons to thank God and for what He's just done over the last few weeks, and for something in particular, I guess, just as we're celebrating, what I've been really blessed about is the people that God has brought into our team. And the family members, and I just love that He's brought people from all different walks of life. We're so multicultural, we're so, the age range and stuff like that, it's absolutely brilliant. So, as Mitch starts tuning up, we are going to go into a bit of worship first. And so, why don't we go into that, really thanking God.
Yeah.
Celebrating.
Let's really celebrate. Probably just one little note regarding the salvations. We would definitely like to get to a place where we're averaging at least one decision a week, because I think that's what we're here to do. We're here to bring a lift in our community, as we have mentioned before, and that's what we want to see it grow to. And at the moment, 2 of those salvations are from our kids, and we believe, as far as we know, those were first-time genuine decisions. And we love that people in our team are getting saved, no matter what kind of age they are. But the rest of the decisions have been rededications. If you want to spread out a bit, you can. Have been rededications, and at the same, while we do want to see people getting saved, at the same time, I really believe that God is bringing such people because they know how to work in the church family. They know how to dig in and start to see God do something more. So, for example, because I'm going to mention names, see you later, YouTube world. We love you. See you later.